out on a small town street beside a cornfield. Not exactly a romantic location.
He grew up by a cornfield.
Neither palace nor prison. He has a realization. This is such a gift. This ease is such a gift. This peace to grow up in hides a disassociation.
He grew up by a cornfield.
Well, there is a common misconception about what is a labyrinth. And a labyrinth is not a puzzle, a convoluted path of dead ends and twists and turns. A labyrinth is an ancient geometric symbol that has one long winding path that leads inexorably to the center. And then from the center, there is but one long winding path back out. And these labyrinth shapes have been found across the ancient world. It's fascinating. And the metaphor, the meaning of the labyrinth, although we don't know, of course it's ancient, carved onto rocks and cave, we don't know. But maybe, no matter what you do, you're going inexorably towards where you're supposed to be. And especially when we gather together, a room full of people all of whom have gone their long and winding path, and every step that they all have taken to be gathered at that time, in that place, for that reason, it's like a massive cosmological alignment of the people coming together, each following their own labyrinth and each arriving at that same point. I think it's a really beautiful metaphor, it's a beautiful thought, and it's a powerful image. And it's a power in claiming the journey it took you to get where you are and the journey that you are going on from this point. So Act 1, it came to me as this Act 1. The first act of what I'm piecing together is some type of modular experimental opera that has different chapters. Each chapter has a esteemed musical guest, and it tells a different part of a story, a long, non-linear story that gives us like different kind of aspect and thoughts on life, the universe, and everything, and like for what is, for me as the medium of this work, the important things in life. She grew up by an olive grove.
عقد ما فيق الليل القمر وبكتر ما هلت دموع البشر قد النادي الغفيان براق السهري طالع بالي بهالبرد ضمي وغفوي على خيط
singing
القصب
about like a loose yarn of my mother's scarf and how I miss it and how I miss its smell. Metaphorically, it's about missing home. And that I'm also yearning for this very warm hug, and it's always happening, and all the cold that we're surrounded with. And cold comes as a metaphor as well. and I'm also singing about, I refer to like مبارح مرق موال, which means ذكرني بإيديكي, which means موال is a very popular form of singing in the Middle East. This is where you would actually like get this ecstasy feeling of like aman aman or like yalil. So what I'm basically saying is مبارح مرق موال, yesterday a موال came across my mind and reminded me of your hands, my mom. تعبان بس ما قال. The موال was tired, but it didn't show. And then I go back to the yearning, and it doesn't matter how hard or hardcore it is and how painful it is, there's some sweetness to it that is keeping me alive and giving me so much hope. That's basically what I'm saying.
For so long, the assumptions are wrong. You can't raise a kid like that. This Zionism and nihilism and ethic with tear gas and phosphorus. Dehumanization and building a nation by stealing all we ever had.
But I was like thinking about you not missing home.
Because for me, home, as I came to awareness as a person, as a child, I realized that what was home there for me was not rooted to the land. And as I understood then cultures of like where I grew up in Ontario, in the countryside of Ontario, these small farming communities that grew up in the like 1800s. And what for me was the beautiful green rolling hills as a child, those rolling hills, fences and farms were themselves the tools of genocide of the wilderness and the people who were there before, for thousands of years. So this 100 years of history of my
it's like the
settler
like the ongoing
culture,
cycle of,
exactly. And then I would see the settlements of the city, the new settlement, the suburb, destroying and eroding the countryside that I grew up in, that I thought was beautiful. But also I'm aware of that this destruction, as this wave of like suburban destruction feels to me oppressive, the thing that was for me beautiful, and the horse farms and the cornfields, was itself oppressive to the generations before. Repressing, transgressing, and all the wildly bits of life. I later found the So this labyrinth shape, there's many of them, many variations on this, but this is called the classical unicursal labyrinth. It means that there's one path that winds all around to the center. And the metaphor, the meaning of it, that there was only one way that I could have got to get here, is really powerful symbol and really empowering.